this is a list I've put together of things that would be more entertaining than EV NASCAR. And certainly office chair racing, that would be, I could see that reaching near NASCAR levels of competitiveness. That would be very exciting. Video game speedrunners. You ever watch those people do that? They're insane, by the way. I don't think they're human. Airplane racing. That is really cool. Air racing. It's ultra dangerous, twice as dangerous, and twice the cool. Competitive eating, even. That's exciting.
From Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show with Matt West.
Yes, we are. You are listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. Matt West talking cars with you on the weekend. Loaded show for you today because, oh man, we got a ton of stuff to get to. Ford builds an EV NASCAR. Now, is this the next step for the beloved sport of driving around quickly in circles? We will see. We're going to discuss that. Also, the robot invasion is mere months away in Austin, Texas. So you're going to need to brace yourself. You're going to need to find your nearest friendly T100 Terminator to help you out. I don't know. This is going to be interesting. The robo-taxis are taking over. We're going to discuss that. We're also going to discuss a alternate history. Imagine this, an alternate universe where Ford canceled the Mustang in 1990 and sold this thing called the Probe. What would happen? What would the car world look like now had that happened? By the way, it almost happened. We barely avoided that reality. We are on the correct timeline. And so we're going to discuss that. And I'm going to take one for the team of the team of me, myself, and I here today. But I'm going to take one for the team and answer some of the internet's dumbest questions on r/Ask a Mechanic. And we're going to get to all of that and maybe even more in this next hour of the show. That's a lot of stuff to cram in there. So we're going to get to all of that. Now, I need to tell you, I like sometimes starting the show talking about some of my own personal automotive exploits, you could say. Because, yes, indeed, I do probably talk about cars more than I actually spend time working on cars. And I did something this week that Jim Miller even called a mistake. He called it stupid, even, which that's amazing coming from him, by the way, and you'll figure out why here in a second. But to give you some context, a couple of weeks ago on the show, I had a question from none other than the operations manager here at AM 1460 The Answer. That's my home base I'm broadcasting out of. Of course, you can hear this show, however, on 100.7 The Word, as well as 91.7 KLZR. But Brett Stevens, he's my operation manager, and he said, hey, my son wants to buy a new car. What should we do? What should we get? And I said, before you even look at what kind of car you're getting, don't buy new. If you want that new car feeling, if your son wants that new car experience, you need to look into something called certified pre-owned. And certified pre-owned, to get you up to speed on what I talked about if you didn't catch it on the podcast. Of course, you can catch those podcasts on Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, of course, YouTube and Facebook on video, as well as Spotify, I should say. It's all on video now, and you should subscribe to the show there. Even if you listen to it here regularly on the radio, go ahead and subscribe to it online to show support of the show. It really helps out a lot over there on the in the realm of the internet. But what I told Brett that he should do with his son, of course, is go certified pre-owned. And the reason for that is namely depreciation, because when you buy a new car, you lose 15 to 20% the second you drive off the lot. Actually, really, the second you sign the paperwork, you lose that money. And that's worse, by the way, if you're financing that car, because you suddenly owe more what you just paid for than the car's actually worth. If you flipped it and sold it a day or two later, you're going to be upside down in that. And that's never a good thing. Certified pre-owned is fascinating, though, because it is a fancy way of saying used car. But it comes with a few caveats that are worth knowing, which is it's a used car that's had usually a fairly comprehensive inspection done. Now, the dealerships like to boast, 790-point inspection. I could tell you if it's that many points on it, the technician probably isn't taking that much time to go through each of those. But generally, it is a pretty comprehensive inspection that is done on the car. So much so that the manufacturer feels confident in offering a warranty and sometimes even a manufacturer-backed extended warranty on that certified pre-owned car. In some cases, that warranty is actually better than the warranty you would have had if you just bought the car new. So there are benefits to it. Drawbacks? Well, the drawbacks are it's not technically a new car. You're not technically the first person to own it. But most of these certified pre-owned cars are less than 5 years old. They're usually current models that you can either buy new off the lot or one that's slightly used. A lot of them are lease turn-ins as well. And I'm here to say, all of this being said, that I actually practice what I preach because I bought another car. Yeah, I did. That's why Jim Miller, he's like, hey, you already have the A86, the S2000, the 240, the other Subaru, the Hawkeye Subaru, the truck, the Jeep, and some other stuff. I can't even remember half of it sometimes. He's like, don't buy another car, just fix the ones you have. And that, by the way, I thought was hilarious coming from Jim Miller. I mean, that's the kettle calling the pot black, or however that goes, right? That's ridiculous because that dude has 300,000 cars, and he just keeps buying them and not fixing some of them. So, yeah, really, thanks, Jim, for that. But anyway, what I did, and this might surprise you, is I bought, of all things, a Subaru. Another one. Why? There's a good reason for it. Even though last week on the show I was literally bashing on Subaru, and I did say that Subaru should be taken around back and put down. Those were my exact words last week. But we could just kind of forget about that and pretend that last week's show didn't happen and pretend that you can't just go onto the podcast and find it where I said that. We're just going to pretend that. I said Subaru was also out of touch, that Subaru had lost their mind. All of these things were in response to the S210, which is their super high-performance version of the new generation WRX now. And it comes only with a CVT, which is still insane. What I bought was a 2024 WRX base model, however. And the base model is actually kind of interesting because it has all of the same drivetrain. Like, it's the same drivetrain as the Limited, as the TR. The TR gets fancy brakes and Recaro seats. Okay, the drivetrain is identical. You're not getting any changes there. There's no mechanical incentive for me to buy the fancy TR for $45,000, $50,000 over the base model. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is where certified pre-owned comes in, and it's really cool because this base model would have been $34,000-ish out the door, and that's before tax, by the way. It's before tax and registration. I got this one, a 2024 base model WRX with all of the things I wanted, which was nothing, basically. I wanted a manual transmission, a turbo, and all-wheel drive. It was kind of my criteria. That was really it. I didn't really care what the rest of the car had. But I got what I wanted, and I got out that door $26,000. Of course, yeah, I had to register it and do stuff with the county and the state. That added a couple thousand. But the actual cost of the car, $26,000. Basically at $8,000, $9,000, whatever difference from brand new. And get this car had 700 miles. In fact, in the state of Colorado, it actually legally could be sold as a new car if it didn't already have one owner. Apparently the guy bought it, said, hey, I can't afford the insurance on this thing, and brought it back to the dealership, a week or two later. And so legally, it's a one-owner car. They can't sell it as new. They do the inspection. They sell it as certified pre-owned. Now, in Colorado, your mileage may vary if you're listening on the podcast out of state. They can technically sell a car with, I believe, up to 3,000 miles on it as quote-unquote new. And those would be dealership miles if it was like a dealership loaner car. The key is that it can't have had a single owner yet on it. And the dealership obviously doesn't count as an owner in this case. So, yeah, that's why I did that. I mean, honestly, again, you talk about that depreciation. Somebody else took a hit on that depreciation for me, took the car back, they put it up for sale. I walked in and bought it. I got a 7-year powertrain warranty, and I spent a few extra bucks on a 7-year bumper-to-bumper warranty for it. And guess what? Now I actually have a car I can drive, unlike my, 7 other cars that actually don't run and aren't actually really worth anything. I guess they're worth something to me. So I guess, I'm not here to boast that I got a good deal. I know we all can find good deals here and there, but I'm saying that not only can I do this, I didn't have to do anything special for this. I just looked for certified pre-owned. And if you have to buy a new car, maybe you got a family member who wants to buy a new one, check there first. Save yourself some money, save yourself some trouble. So hey, coming up after the break, we're talking about Ford and NASCAR. They're going EV.
What just happened? Watch on the right side of your screen.
One outside over here. Outside.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack to race his way into the championship 4.
This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
Man, I love that clip right there. That's Ross Chastain. That was NASCAR probably. Golly, was that already back in 2022? I think it was. It's been a while since you maybe heard that sound clip there. And man, oh man, what a race right there. And if you're listening on the radio, what he did, and there's a reason I'm talking about this now in 2025, what he did is he took that car like seconds before the race was going to end. Everyone's coming up upon the checkered flag. He's several cars behind. He pins that car flat out in the oval here and then goes straight into the wall and rides the wall like you would on an arcade game, like a video game, rides that wall, passes a bunch of cars, and gets into the first couple of cars there. I mean, come on, man. He gets right. I mean, that was incredible. What a way to race, by the way. That is motorsports. That is what we love about motorsports. Now, NASCAR, their reaction to that was perhaps not as they weren't as excited as the fans were. And there now apparently is a rule that you can't do that, but they at the time said, well, I guess we got to give it to him. We'll give him a slap on the wrist. That was reckless. That was dangerous. You're bad and you should feel bad, but we can't really penalize you for it. And then obviously the next race, they go, hey, no one can do this. You're not allowed to do this anymore. Why? Because probably everyone was going to do it. That's probably why. But here's the thing. Racing, I think, has gotten a little too sanitized. I think modern NASCAR itself is too sanitized on its own. The FIA with F1 and these other races, again, too sanitized, too safe. I mean, where's the fun in the motorsports now? It's supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be engaging. And now they want to take that away from us even more. Ford, by the way, this comes by way of Caleb Jacobs from The Drive. Ford reveals Mustang Mach E NASCAR prototype to show series future with electric SUVs. First of all, there's a couple words that were said in that are already blasphemous. Even let's see, NASCAR future with electric SUVs. It's bad enough if they're electric, but the electric SUVs, come on, man. The crossover virus, you could say, is spreading. Yeah, we get to look at these stupid crossovers driving around all day, every day on our roads. They're actually pretty practical and nice, but we have to look at them still. And now we have to look at them in NASCAR. At least in theory, this might be the future here. Now, what's interesting about this race car that they debuted is it is a 1,300 horsepower prototype, and they debuted this to show what the future could look like. And this car, I will admit, has it has some performance. 1,300 horsepower is no slouch, by the way. That's not bad. They, of course, showed some press pictures of it doing donuts and burnouts, things like that. Of course, smoking some tires. Yes, we all know electric motors can smoke some tires. That's fine. But here's the thing. And they say, by the way, allegedly this is also going to go compete up at Pikes Peak this summer. Now, I love being involved with the Pikes Peak Hill Climb as a spectator. I go as media as well. Of course, supporting Jimmy Ford, jimmyfordracing.com. Jimmy and his team, they are amazing, by the way. A family team that is really competing with, the highest level of, competitive racing. I mean, that's what they're doing, and they're awesome, every one of them. But having said that, when I was at the hill climb last year, I got to see Super Van, which was an electric van that Ford Racing put up there. That thing was scary fast. Also, terrifyingly enough, when it comes to racing on the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, they have to run sirens and noise generators on these electric vehicles because you can't hear these things coming through the trees if you're spectating, you're on the side of the road, or your media, maybe your safety staff, whatever, and you are on the course or next to the course. You can't hear these guys run it. The great thing is when you have guys like Jimmy Ford, especially with his car, I'm telling you, you can hear him coming. If you're up on Devil's Playground at the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, which is far up there, you're above tree line, I swear you can hear Jimmy at the starting line. That's how loud his car is. And so, yeah, he's coming. But these electric cars, not so much. Now, sure, you can have a little bit of fun with that. I remember a few years ago I was there. It was the year they had a bunch of fog and nastiness. One of the teams out of Japan had an EV. It was like some souped-up Nissan Leaf thing. And they were told it has to make some sort of noise. So most teams are putting a siren on it, kind of like a police car. What they did is they had it make ice cream truck noises and like kid toy noises. It had like mooing sounds. It had like a bell, had like a squeaky toy, and then an ice cream truck. I'll give them credit for creativity on that. I'll give them credit for that. I would still rather have screaming V8s over ice cream truck noises, but it is unusual when you're hanging out nearly freezing to death at the Pikes Peak Hill Climb and you hear an ice cream truck coming at you at triple-digit speeds somewhere a couple corners down past the trees. That's an unusual experience. I will say that. But anyway, so with this car, what can I say about it? I mean, it's an EV. It's a SUV thing. It's modeled to look like the Ford Mustang Mach E, which is their SUV-based thing that they seem to call a Mustang, which is a crime on its own. But I get it. They make the car. They can call it whatever they want. But here's the thing. I think this is going to ruin NASCAR if they do it. It might be fine in other sanctioning bodies, other types of racing. People are saying, look, we have to accept EV racing. It's just an extra thing. I went on a huge tirade last week about how I think we should have both gas and EVs. We should have both in our lives. And both means, okay, fine, there's going to be some EV racing. But I don't think EVs make compelling race cars. Sure, they're fast. Sure, the course record on Pikes Peak is currently being held by an EV. The problem is they're boring. That's the problem. They're not exciting. It's one thing to be the driver. I'm sure they're tremendously exciting to drive. All of that instant torque, that instant power on tap immediately at the blip of your, I can't call it a throttle pedal, but whatever you call it, the accelerator. That's exciting as a driver. The problem is a lot of racing also has to double as a spectator sport. Yes, the point of the racing is to get, the fastest time possible and be competitive. But secondly, if you want to make any money doing it, it needs to be a compelling spectator sport. You got to sell tickets to fans to pay for the track and all this other stuff, among many other things, many other expenses, and it needs to be exciting. And that's the problem when you go to EV race cars. They are not exciting. I mean, look at it this way. When was the last time you actually watched Formula E? Not Formula One, Formula E. Have you watched it? Are they even doing it still? Nobody knows because it's boring and nobody cares because they're EVs and they're not that exciting to watch. And they have some stupid system where like fans can vote on drivers and give them a little speed boost like a video game. It's really weird. Nobody likes that. And here's the thing. Look, NASCAR, I'm talking to you, NASCAR, directly. We don't need you for entertainment. We don't need you for that. There's other things we can get for entertainment. And I actually was looking into this. I did some thinking. Rare, I know, right? But I did some thinking. What other things Say NASCAR decides to go EV for some reason and alienate an entire fan base who is literally just there to be at a race and hear the cars, dozens of cars flying past you, screaming V8s at 200 miles an hour. That has a sound. You're picturing that sound right now. You know that sound of all those cars, shoom, 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 flying by. You know that sound. I mean, come on, that's part of the excitement. But here's the thing. Here's some other ideas I had. If NASCAR goes EV on this, and the fact that they're parading this around means they're even thinking about it. If they do, we have some alternatives. And this is a list I've put together of things that would be more entertaining than EV NASCAR. And certainly office chair racing, that would be, I could see that reaching near NASCAR levels of competitiveness. That would be very exciting. Video game speedrunners. You ever watch those people do that? They're insane, by the way. I don't think they're human. Airplane racing. That is really cool. Air racing. It's ultra dangerous, twice as dangerous, and twice the cool. Competitive eating, even. That's exciting. I actually worked as a producer at a sports talk radio station, and we had Joey Chestnut on for like 5 minutes, the world champion competitive eater. He was really cool. That was a crowning achievement, by the way, in my broadcasting career. I got to talk to him for like a minute. It was cool. Anyway, barrel racing, that's exciting. Children on tricycles, dogs in hats. Jim Miller running for city council. He's doing that. That is actually exciting. Competitive clown racing. And what else? Oh, how about this? What if we just Google weirdest competitive racing sports? What do we get? Camel racing, ostrich racing, extreme ironing. What's that? Hang on. Extreme ironing is an extreme sport, extreme twice, in which people take ironing boards to remote locations and iron items of clothing. And it's got a picture of a dude standing on like a cliff with an ironing board. That's cool. I'll take it. Chess boxing. That's also cool. Wife carrying. Ooh, here we go. Chariot racing. People still do that. What if we swap out the horses for motorcycles and we go like Mad Max with that? All of this would be more exciting than NASCAR with EVs. And honestly, NASCAR, even without the EVs, because of all the rules and regulations come on, it's not as entertaining as it used to be. I mean, if you're saying it's as entertaining as it used to be, you're kind of lying to yourself a little bit. It was born in a world of smuggling and bootlegging. I mean, come on, man. Like, it was born in that world, right? And now we have all these petty rules and drama and all of this nonsensical stuff. Jim Miller likes to say that phrase, nonsensical stuff. And he's totally right about that. I mean, look at it this way. Again, NASCAR, we don't need you. We watch you because there's still some excitement to it. We go to your events because, well, yeah, it's still cool to watch the cars go around. And the drivers, man, some of those guys have balls of steel. I'm just saying. But, look at it this way. What would it be? Like NASCAR, if we have to reassess this, if you go EV, then I guess it could still be fun. But I would rank it somewhere between dogs and hats and maybe wife carrying. So, I don't know. Go figure. Take your pick on that. I like the idea. Competitive ironing. Let's do that. Anyway, you're listening to Automotive ADHD. We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. You know, I am a sucker for those straight six noises out of that Jeep there. That's why I'm running those car sounds again. You are listening to the Automotive ADHD show. I am Matt West, hanging out with you, talking cars, and you can send those car sounds into my show. Have them featured here on the radio, on the podcast, wherever fine shows in this one are listened to and downloaded. And you can send those car sounds in at facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. There's a pinned post at the top of the page, and you go ahead, you go to that post, you comment on it, and you put those car sounds down there, and as a video, and or you can direct message me those car sounds. But man, I prefer if you comment it. That way, we all get to see it and enjoy it. So, and of course, you can win some cool stuff when you do that. Details over there on the Facebook page. And we do have, by the way, I do have these still hanging around. I've just been giving these out to anyone who asks for one. The Automotive ADHD key tag. You can see this one right here on my keys. I'll wave them at the microphone as if you can see them on the radio. This key tag, These things are great. You can see how well, I've had these for a couple of years in one form or another, and you can see how well they're wearing. This one here is about 2 years old, and it's got greasy fingerprints on it, but it's still in good shape. So you can grab one of those. If you want one, just message me on the Facebook page. I'll mail one out to you. I can typically mail out to the lower 48 fairly easily. So if you're in another country on the podcast or the stream of this radio station, which I know you are, we'll see what we can do. I can't always guarantee it, but I'll give it the best shot to get that mailed out to you. So now I talked about this earlier. What if we lived in a world, this is an interesting thought experiment. What if we lived in a world where the Mustang died in 1990? And this comes by way of Motor Trend. Benjamin Hunting, writer over at Motor Trend, asked this question, and it's a relevant question that actually has some history to it because last year marked the 60th anniversary of the Mustang. The Mustang is just a iconic vehicle that everyone knows the Mustang. There's no one who doesn't know the Mustang. And the Mustang has been in various forms and flavors for, 60 years now. But it almost wasn't. And the reason for this is a thing called the Ford Probe. And the Probe was a plan that Ford had to create a front-wheel drive. There it is. Ugh, the groan. Front-wheel drive. Of course, our Honda guys out here like their front-wheel drive quite a bit. They certainly do, and there's some merits, to front-wheel drive. We won't talk about those merits because that would give them too much credence. And, of course, we have to denounce front-wheel drive. Not as much as we denounce EVs on this show, but some amount we certainly do. But look, even if front-wheel drive is a good solution for whatever it is you're doing, it's typically a great solution for economy cars, cheap cars. It's not a Mustang thing. The Mustang should not ever be front-wheel drive. Now, the Mach E Mustang, they shouldn't even call it a Mustang. Can they just call it the Mach E? That would be handy, right? That would be great. Just call it that. Everyone would be happy. No, you had to call it the Mustang Mach E. But that's all-wheel drive, so whatever. Close enough. 50% there. So, but the Ford Probe came about in the late 80s as a means to make a reasonably priced sort of economy sports coupe. That was the direction a lot of the automotive industry was going into. Even your European cars, a lot of them were going front-wheel drive. Your import cars, your Japanese imports specifically, they had gone front-wheel drive a few years before this. Famously, the AE86 was followed up by the AE92, and the AE92 was front-wheel drive to the chagrin of all the enthusiasts around the world. And then, of course, Honda being front-wheel drive predominantly with the exclusion of their S600, S800 early on. And then, of course, the S2000, the NSX and stuff brought that rear-wheel drive back in the 90s and the late 90s, early 2000s. But I digress. So Ford said, what if we cooperated with our partner Mazda and built something, had a 3-liter V6, 200 horsepower, and it actually was pulled out from under the hood of the Taurus SHO, which has that really trick Yamaha designed V6. That does sound glorious. That is a great V6. And it had some classic, kind of late 80s wedge styling to it. This was the Probe. All things considered, not a bad car. But the idea was to replace the Mustang with this. And that's where Mustang fans, got up in arms, threatened to overthrow entire nations over this. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but they were very upset. And Ford, to their credit, had listened to the Mustang fans. They listened to them and said, all right, fine, we'll build a new generation of Mustang for you. And then ultimately, you go from the Fox Body Mustang to the SN95 Mustang, to the New Edge, to the S197, and all of those generations there. And of course, you have the S550 and whatever the new one's called now. I'm drawing a blank on that. But, you can trace the lineage back to that. But this was almost the part where it ended. And this Motor Trend article I find fascinating because it looks at a timeline here, a hypothetical timeline. Ford releases the Probe, and Ford kills the Mustang with this. And imagine this is the alternate timeline. This is the branch here, okay? 1989, the start of a performance revolution. And it goes on to say, although there's a brief outcry from the Mustang devotees, Ford fanatics quickly flock to the probe as the automaker gives it a massive push. And they go on to say here that it takes on rumored supercars lurking at the edges of Japan's bubble economy, and everything is on the table, right? We're setting the stage here. 1990, the Cavalier. Chevy jumps on board and kills the Camaro for the Cavalier, with eyes on taking on the FD Mazda RX-7, the A80 Supra, the Z32 Nissan, the 300ZX, all of that stuff. And they push the Cavalier as the sporty replacement here. And then the Fox body Mustang dies altogether in 1992 in this alternate timeline. And the Ford Probe is reborn once again, a facelift, sleeker curves, a beefier V6, 7,200 RPM redline from the Taurus show. This is a real engine, by the way, that did exist. This is the hypothetical. This is the Ford Probe GTS now. This is kind of fun delving into this alternate history here. And then they go on to say by 1994, the compact class war erupts with Chevy jumping on board. You have Dodge jumping on board with the Neon and the things like that. Now, all of this, I think is kind of, it's fun to go through it, but man, it's so close. This was so close to reality. 1998 in the alternate timeline here, Ford sends all-wheel drive on over to the Probe and gives it all-wheel drive, 270 horsepower. And, takes on the likes of Mitsubishi with it, takes on the things like the Evo with it. And again here. Now, of course, you have a competitor to this, because what good, performance car do you have without competitors? Dodge, of course, brings on Mitsubishi. They make Diamond Star motors. You're familiar with that. They teamed up at this time period to do a number of things. But in this alternate universe, they go extra, they go extra deep into this, really taking on a compact muscle battle, if such a thing exists. Compact muscle, man, I don't know what that is. And in this hypothetical alternate timeline, this alternate universe here, 2001, there's this little movie called Fast and Furious, and starring none other than the Ford Probe with the classic livery, the Paul Walker livery on this. And instead of what we're used to seeing there. And of course, it takes on the S2000 and the Mazda Miata and the third gen MR2. By 2003, they make a Ford Probe GT. It's a Corvette fighter. I mean, this is fun. This is fun. But, I mean, we were this close to that. And we actually, this timeline, maybe we're in the broken timeline and we just got lucky with this. I don't know, but it's a fun look back at automotive history and how different things could be so easily. Now, hey, don't go anywhere. We're going to answer some of the internet's dumbest questions by yours truly right here.
And I don't want anyone driving my XT while I'm away. Do you understand?
The new Subaru XT6 has a powerful six-cylinder engine, computerized full-time four-wheel drive, and a design which makes it hard to resist.
Somebody drove my car. Who was it?
La 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 bam bam.
The Subaru XT6. We built our reputation by building a better car.
Am I allowed to just sit here and jam out to my own bumper music? Because that's what I'm going to do. Oh, man. You are listening. Wait for it. There we go. To the Automotive ADHD show. Matt West here. Talking cars with you on the radio, online as well. YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, wherever fine shows. And mine are downloaded. And, I frequent a Reddit thread called r/Ask a Mechanic. And this is a funny thread because this has some genuine people asking for advice, and it also has some really questionable advice. So what I'm gonna do here is scroll through the thread and give you some feedback on what I what I think was some of these posts. And of course, if you want to catch this on the video as well, you could see some of these ones that I'm talking about here. And there are some gems in here, man. There are some gems in here. This looks like a Jeep Wrangler, and the front suspension is doing, well, what that's called is death wobble, by the way. Yeah, you don't want that. You obviously don't want that. That's where the whole front suspension starts flopping around all over the place. I don't know, again, if you should really seek this thread for actual mechanical advice. I don't know if you should really listen to this show for actual mechanical advice. Here's one. I deliver bad pizzas for a living. Will this be fine for a couple of weeks? Shock is completely sheared off of the lower control arm. That's a normal amount of rust for a rust belt state there. The spring perch is now stuck on the control arm. He says, will this be fine for a couple of weeks? Not kidding. He's serious. I mean, technically, you could probably drive that. I wouldn't, though. I would not recommend doing that. Not in the slightest there. Let's see. Tire came off while driving. Well, there's more stuff. There's a lot more stuff there than the tire. That's not good. Yeah, you have a problem there. Did anything else happen when the tire came off? By the way, this picture here. Yes, there's the tire. There's the hub. There's the axle shaft. There's the strut. There's a lot here. I have a feeling more than the tire just, came off here. By the way, I should preface this by saying I'm not a mechanic, but I know how to be dangerous with tools. Take that with however you will. We do have a former official mechanic of the show, OBD1 Kenobi. Of course, since he bought an EV, though, he has not been invited back on the show because he's probably going to text me again here any minute. And this morning, it's kind of chilly in the morning, probably saying, my EV's so warm. I preheat it with my app every day. I do my own warranty repairs on my own EV. I get paid to fix it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Former mechanic of the show. Let's see here. What else do we have? Well, that's a tire with holes in it. Don't think you need a mechanic to tell you that there's holes in that tire. Here's another one. My son tried to change the oil, and the oil plug is spinning freely. Any advice? Don't let your son change the oil, obviously. Next. Let's see. We already replaced the brakes. It's smoking and turned red. That rotor's very red. That rotor is about to not be a rotor. That's about to be a liquid puddle of metal inside your wheel. You're probably going to have to replace the brakes again. Anyway, next. Let's see here. There's another hole in a tire. How long should I drive on this tire? Probably not at all. If you have to ask how long you should drive on that tire, you should probably stop driving on the tire. Let's see. This next user posts, is it safe to use jack stands on the rear axle of a truck? As he posts the picture with jack stands on the rear axle of the truck. So he already answered his question. And yes, it is safe to use jack stands on the rear axle of a truck. Where else are you going to put them back there? Saw these wheel covers on a tractor. What are these? Tractor as in like a semi-truck. What are these and why use them? They're the black plastic covers that go over the wheels on the truck. Anyway, to answer the question, what are these? They're wheel covers. Why use them? Obvious. Well, they cover the wheels. Obviously. Next. Let's see here, because again, bear in mind here, I don't have a lot of time on the show. We're wrapping up, coming up on the bottom of the hour. So we're going rapid fire through these bits of mechanical advice here. How did drum brakes survive until the turn of the millennium? Actually, they survived well past that. In fact, my Tacoma's a 2012, and it still has drum brakes, albeit in the rear. Also, the third-gen Tacoma after mine had drum brakes in the rear all the way up to, 2022? 2023? Yeah, they still use them in a lot of things. As for how did they survive, they work and they're cheap. Easy. There's a lot of things with the automotive world where it is cheap and it works. That's really the only reason. There's not like some deeper philosophical reasoning to this. There just isn't. People like I mean, manufacturers like cheap. So, does anybody know what this light means, and should I be worried? It's a little green light with a picture of axles and some drive shafts. No, in fact, that's the light letting you know that your axles and drive shaft are all still attached and that you can continue driving, obviously. Because if you didn't have the axles and drive shaft attached, then how would you continue driving? Let's see. Is this safe to drive to the garage? I assume by the garage you mean like a shop. The rear control arm is gone, but somehow the wheel's still attached there. Safe is a relative term here. I mean, it really depends on how much one... I just changed the picture on there. Yeah, that's worse from that angle. Anyway, it really just depends on how much one values their own existence, and then you weigh that into the equation and decide if you drive that to the shop or not, which you probably get a tow. What did I actually buy? And it's a picture of an engine. That's an engine. Looks like a 4-cylinder from what I can see here. Either that or it's a V8 from the side, and we're only seeing one bank of it here. Can't really tell much in the photo, but yes, it is an engine. Did anyone comment? There's actual mechanics who comment on this thread who maybe actually have a more enlightened response. Oh, here's someone talking about decoding the VIN on this and figuring out the firing order. Yeah, no one cares. Moving on. Let's see. Customer states, I don't know. I know I should change the tires, but I need to get until the next paycheck, basically. Don't have enough money to get. Should I change it? Yes, you should on this one. The wheel is split open on the side. The tire, I'm amazed that even drove in there. Oh, here's another one. This one says, as a lady with some incredibly long fingernails. Oh, my goodness. Have you ever heard of like a fingernail clipper? Those are like claws. Look at that. Oh, and they're green too. Is this like an ogre who's doing this? I don't know. But she's posting a picture of a spring in front of her Subaru steering wheel. And the friend says, so my friend asked me, hey, do you want a spring, and gave me this. I asked where it came from, and she said it fell out of her dashboard. Oh, so you're not so your friend's the crazy person who bought a Subaru. You're not. Well, obviously what the vehicle is behind there, the spring is probably a reliable piece of machinery. And, as for the Subaru, I don't know. Granted, I just bought one, but, hey, that 7-year warranty. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Okay, I'm going to just keep going on here. This is, what is this metal piece that fell off my car today? Well, a piece of metal, presumably, that fell off your car. Looks like an exhaust heat shield. You probably don't need that. Maybe you ran it over. Who knows? There's, I think when you look at forums like this, there's a lot that people, oh man. Can we play a guessing game? The axle shaft is sheared on this. The wheel is not attached to where the axle shaft should have been. You probably need a mechanic for that one, especially if you're not sure what happened. Clearly, the wheel has departed the vehicle along with the hub, and there's pieces of metal that are shattered that shouldn't be shattered. So I don't know why you're asking a mechanic what's going on. Just ask the mechanic to fix that, obviously. A lot of these are just common sense. Let's see. Can someone give me a non-suspicious reason that 2 brand new luxury cars would randomly burst into flames in the engine compartment twice in a month, parked in the same parking spot in a garage? Perhaps don't park in that parking spot. Or maybe one of them was an EV. I don't know. So, oh man, this has been a fun show. I appreciate you joining me here on the Automotive ADHD show. We like to have fun here. Sometimes we get serious. Sometimes we talk about politics as they relate to cars. And other times I give you, questionable mechanical advice free of charge. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next week when, we're probably talking more cars.